Okay, so I'm going to ask everybody to join me. No, I'm not even going to ask. Just I want you to put your foot up in the air. Put your foot up in the air. How about your other foot? Put it behind your head. Can you get it behind your head? How was that for you? You can unmute yourself and just say it was good, bad, I didn't like that.
After hiking in Southern California for a little over 2 weeks, my knees are shot, so I don't like that.
Yeah.
Lorelei, would you like me to give the introduction for your presentation?
Sure, go ahead, Roxanne.
Thank you. And I would like to say it's my privilege to introduce our first speaker today, Lorelei Grecian. Lorelei is compassionately committed to creating spaces for people to grow. She has been a Toastmaster since 2018 and has filled roles as VP of Education, Secretary, and is currently Club President. She is completing the Pathways Innovative Planning and beginning Persuasive Influence. Lorelei is serving as Area 3 Director through 2021-2022. When she is not helping people reach and fulfill their potential, she is playing at the beach, using power tools, and learning something. We can be taught, we can read lots, and we can imagine in our minds things to help us prepare, to make the doing easier. But it is in the doing that we are successful in bringing the learning to life. Through engaging in practice, we fire up neurons and challenge our normal habits around what we do. For communication and leadership, this may mean many things depending on our past experiences. Join Lorelei as we take a practical journey of learning in our experience in Toastmasters. The title of Lorelei's presentation, We Learn by What? Thank you, Lorelei.
Thank you, Roxanne. I just had you do a little exercise. We're trying to get your foot over your head or behind your head or up in the air. And those of you who participated had an experience that maybe have been different for you, may have been something that you've never done before, may have been a learning experience. Today, I want to share with you a little bit about some things that I've learned personally about learning, as well as doing a little bit of research and to see what the researchers say about learning. And it's really quite an interesting thing, this learning. There's a book that I have that at the beginning of it says, we are never not learning. If one breathes, one learns. So join me as we take this little journey on learning what learning is. First of all, let's look at what learning isn't. Does anybody have any ideas, even from just doing that little exercise that we did this morning, what learning isn't? You can turn off your mic or turn on your mic and just share if you like. What learning is not. Any ideas out there? Learning is not having somebody else do it for us.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not passive, it's active.
It's active, yes. Learning is not passive. Learning is also, thank you, Carl. Learning is also not rote memorization. It's not doing something that does not interest you, like sticking your leg over your head. Learning is not a test score. It's not vicarious. It's not by osmosis. It's not something that is done to you. It's not coerced. And it's not something that's done by being taught. While we might learn something while we're being taught or somebody's teaching, we are learning things that we want to learn. Learning is a very personal experience. And we like to learn when we are interested in things to learn. What we learn in different scenarios is a lot based on what we desire. We learn to see ourselves sometimes in our learning experiences that are not helpful to our learning experience. We also, when we're in situations where we are expected to learn and we're not interested, we can learn what it's like to not learn. We can also learn to not actually like learning. We can also learn that learning is hard. And sometimes we even learn that there are painful consequences to learning or not learning. So whatever we get out of this workshop, me presenting the workshop is a learning experience. And whatever you get out of this workshop is also a learning experience for you. And I encourage you to take a moment now just to think about what it is you would like to get out of this workshop, because that's important. What you want to get out of something will really impact what you actually get out of it. So it leads us to now the question is, what is learning? As Carl said, learning is an active, it's not a passive process, it's an active, intentional process. And first of all, learning, it is an experience. While it can be a real experience, we can also start out as it being an imagined experience where we envision something in our mind, where we imagine that we are going to do something. Our experience it is also engaging, and it's not something that's boring. It's something that we're really into what we're doing. And which leads me to the next part of what is learning. Get it off there. What is learning? It is very much based on our state of being, and the state of being is related to our physiology, and we want that state to be one that's curious. We want to be interested in what we're doing. We want to be excited about what we're doing. We also want to have an element of relaxation as well, because we don't want to be overwhelmed by what we're doing. We want to be receptive to it. And we also want to be motivated to learn, motivated to take in this experience that we're having. Learning is also conceptual in the sense that we take this experience that we're having and we make sense of it. It becomes part of our beliefs, our understanding about the world that we live in and how we fit into that world. It's also related to decisions that we make and the constructs, the mental constructs of making sense of how things operate. And learning also takes in a representation of what the world is. And this is where we have a very vivid sensory, how we see it, how we feel it, what it tastes like, what it smells like, how, where we fit into it spatially. These are all part of our learning experience because it gives us a sense of who we are and where we are in this world. And there's also the background, which is our reference, our memories, the experiences that we've already had and all of the concepts and the representations that we've already experienced and made sense of and understand about our existence, our world around us. And I would say, I know I've heard it said that there's no adult that does not have background. I would say because we are learning right from the beginning, there is no person that doesn't have a background. Every experience that we come into to learn, we're bringing everything that we've already experienced into that learning, that new learning experience. And lastly is the pragmatic or the real or practical, the actual doing of the skills. We've now learned them. We've had that opportunity to take them in, and now we embody them. They become a part of who we are and what we do. It becomes a part of your neurology. It's in your cells. It's in your, I don't know, DNA, but it's in your DNA expression, how your DNA is expressed, because you've learned it so well that your brain is now operating as it's just part of your, you want to call it programming, conditioning. So this is an overall picture of what learning includes. And after we have this learning experience, the intent is usually to have a gain of skills that we can take and we can use them to change the world, or even just our part of the world, but we're going to use them to make a difference in something. And this summer, I actually had an experience where I was taking on a project that I'd never done before. I had done little bits and pieces of it before, but I'd never done it before. And it was a rather interesting experience for me because I had to sit and really understand what my learning process was, because I had never done this before. And learning is really a natural experience. It's all of these things are happening all the time. The state that we're in, the concepts and the making sense of the world that we are in, the representation, how we take that in and make sense of it and then make memories from it. Those are natural things that happen to us all of the time. However, sometimes we have experiences that can affect any one of those. It can affect our actual experience. It can affect the state that we're in and whether we're receptive to learning. They can affect the concepts and the understanding of the experiences that we have and how those experiences are represented. So I was trying to create, it started out as a hammock, a place to hang my hammock in the backyard, but it turned into a bigger project, and I had to do everything from strip my deck from the old paint and the old staining that was on it, to putting in 3 posts in the ground and then trying to find another way to put a post on my deck so that it was secure. And then I wanted to have a shade sail over the area where the hammock would be. And as I was trying to put all of these pieces together, I didn't want anybody to help me, because at the very beginning of it, I learned that it was a new experience and I could use it to learn how I actually learned. So I spent a lot of time like this picture here. I spent a lot of time in thought, in trying to understand, how do I learn? If I've never done this before, what do I need to do? And some of it was, I had to deal with state. I had to deal with my physiology. I was overwhelmed. I had to deal with the concepts, the beliefs, some of them about myself, some of them about the things related to doing this project. I had to, the representation was a little bit hard because I had never done this before, and I didn't know it was going to be like. I really had no reference point for some of the parts of it. And then there was the background, the memory, you know, using tools and using them in ways that I'd never used them before and doing things that I'd never done before. So there was a lot of these parts of learning that were coming into play that it made the project both rewarding and challenging at the same time, because I was learning about how to learn. And I wish I could find it. I couldn't find a picture of the final project, but it was successful to some extent. There's a lot of things that I learned even at the completion of it that I'll speak to again if I have a chance to. Yeah, so the brain, what I want to say based on these things is the brain is a prediction making machine as well as a meaning making machine. It also likes to answer questions, and it also looks for errors. It looks for things that are not going the way that we want. Mostly the brain exists to keep us alive. So when we are trying to learn something new, the brain is trying to balance out everything that's going on to keep us alive and in a, I want to say, in a content state. Because when we're outside of content state, it takes more energy and the brain has to be working harder, and the brain does not like to work harder. So I want to ask now, how do you know when you have learned? Can anybody share with me, how do you know when you have learned?
Hi, it's Catherine. I know I've learned when I can actually use the information without a lot of stress, just relatively naturally. I can understand the conversations. So I'm learning a little Italian right now. When I can recognize words, it's like, yay, I've learned something.
Yes. Thank you, Catherine. When you have embodied it and you can repeat it meaningfully and consciously. And as we go through, we understand in our Toastmasters experience, we have competencies. And the first part of competencies is not knowing that you don't know something. And the next step is, well, in that part, you're sometimes even resistant to learning something that you don't know. The next stage is the conscious incompetency, and that's becoming aware that you're lacking some skill or some kind of knowledge to help you do things better. And this is where you can be receptive to learning. Then there's the next stage is conscious competency. And that's when you are using a skill and you're learning how to perform something. It requires conscious thought and the investment of energy and effort. And finally, there's the unconscious competency, where you're able to do it so well that it's now just a part of who you are. You don't have to think about it. And a good example to think of these things is if you've ever learned how to drive. That's it. You can probably remember the stages of, when you didn't even know how to turn on the signal light to now you do it and you don't even think about it. It's so natural for you. The next part I want to look at is the blocks to learning. And this goes back kind of looking at those different aspects of what the learning experience is. And this is just looking at it from a different point of view. From comfort, we talk about the comfort zone a lot, and learning growth zone. And then there's the fear zone. And the fear zone, I realize, is the part where there's usually, it's an experience where it can be overwhelming if we've never done it before. And we can feel unsafe and uncomfortable. And that's really the brain. The brain is like alert to something is going on here that I've never done before. And if we have challenges in that fear zone, sometimes it's because there's one of those, the state, the representation, or the concepts or the understanding, there's something that's missing there in our learning dimensions that keeps us from moving forward. Sometimes we might have to adjust our state. We might have to get ourselves motivated to learn whatever that is that we want to learn. We might have to be more interested in it, or we may have to change our beliefs. Our beliefs are often come out of our past experiences and our history, our background. So we may have to change our beliefs so that we can tell ourselves that we are capable of doing what it is that we want to. And realistically, learning is something that we all can do. If you're human, just like it's that quote at the beginning, if you are alive and you're breathing, you can learn. There may be things that we have to learn about ourselves, just like my experience getting my hammock, my big hammock project going. There were some things I really needed to learn about myself and see that I couldn't see about myself, because in reality, I had learned something that had become such a part of who I was that I was unconscious that I'd actually learned it. And some of those things were things that I believed about myself. So I had to go back and revisit those things and be able to then have the brain go on to learn. I will say here that the brain, because the brain is a prediction machine, it takes all of our history, makes sense of it, and makes sense of our capabilities and that story that we tell ourselves. And it uses that as our starting point for the learning. So if I tell myself, well, I don't know how to use power tools, I can never learn how to use power tools, then if I pick up the power tool and try to use it, my brain will tell me I can't do it, because that's what I told myself before I started. So in that regard, I need to tell myself I can do this. I can learn how to use a power tool. I might need to learn some things about the power tool before I use it, but I can learn how to use it. So one thing that I didn't include in my experience as much at the beginning, because I really wanted to learn how I learned, is learning as a part of an organization is very helpful to learning. I wanted to do this project on my own because I wanted to see how I learned. I recognized that there were some things I didn't know about myself when it came to learning. And I had actually learned this early in my Toastmasters experience. There were things that I struggled with that I could not understand why I was struggling with them. And so this little project that I was doing was helping me to learn on my own. Now, what I do know is as my project progressed, I learned to reach out and access information and knowledge and support, mostly through Google, YouTube, trying to understand some things about what I was trying to do when it come to some of the technical things of the project that I was working on. So it made it easier in that way for me to learn. It wasn't like I was like 500 years ago and I had these tools dropped into my lap and now I was trying to use them. I could actually access the knowledge that other people had about using them. So in our Toastmasters experience, we can access support and knowledge from other people. It is a learning organization, and Peter Senge he's a researcher, and he says a learning organization is a group of people who work together collectively to enhance their capacities to create results they really care about. And that's what we here at Toastmasters, we really care about our communication skills and our ability to be leaders. So this is what we are working together on. And we come together with building the vision. In our Toastmasters vision, we have a shared vision that all are responsible for the quality of the game. In this case, the game is the club, the district, the area, the division. We are all responsible for contributing to that quality. And in systems thinking, we are a complete organization. Our club is a complete organization. We are a whole, and how the whole is operating affects how all of us are operating. We also have mental models where we reflect on our personal beliefs and behaviors and our personal responsibility and how we show up, and whether we're open and honest about our experience. That all impacts our ability to learn. We also have team learning where we come together and we use that synergy of each of our own experiences, and we bring together better results than if we were working on our own. We learn more together, and we also learn faster together. And we also have the personal mastery where we're personally proactive and we're learning continuously, and we're learning what is important to us as an individual. And we're also looking at in the current reality. We're doing that evaluation and feedback quite often to help us, to propel us forward in what we're doing. So Toastmasters is that place where we can learn. And we also have resources in Toastmasters that we can use. We have our club and the culture of our club. We have the values of Toastmasters International that we bring into our club in how we relate to one another and how we work towards what we want to accomplish. So we have respect, excellence, service, and integrity. Those are the undergirding values that keep us moving forward in our learning environment. And we also have our learning tools, such as our meeting quality and our club culture. In our meeting quality, we look at our agenda as a tool. Even our meeting time is a tool, and our meeting space. These are tools that help us to have that environment that we can learn in. Our pathways is supportive of gaining the skills that we want, and our clubs offer the opportunity for us to speak on our projects, to give our speech projects, but also opportunities to practice new skills. And this is just a little overview of some of the skills that we can learn in Toastmasters, everything from the speaking and communication skills to the leadership skills that we can gain in the different offices that we take on. So as you can see, there's lots of things that we can learn and develop in Toastmasters as far as our skills go. And this is just an overview of one of the ways that we assess our skills to see where we are in our competencies and whether we're learning at the rate that we want to. And when we're aware of this feedback and evaluation, it can help us to reassess what it is that we need to do and move forward. And so right now, I'm going to ask you if you have a piece of paper and a pen. I just want you to answer some of these questions, not so much for me, but these are questions that I want you to answer for yourself. So this goes back to the title of my presentation, We Learn by What? And the first letter of what is what you want. So I want you to think about what is it that you want out of your Toastmasters experience? What is it that you want? And I want you to look beyond just the skills and the coming to the meetings and these kind of things, but look at the larger picture of what it is that you want. How do you want to change the world with what you learn at Toastmasters? And when you think about that, I want you to think about it in a positive way also. And after you think about what it is that you want, I want you to think about what it is that you want to feel when you have that experience. Remember, our brain is predictive and it uses what it knows to get what it wants. And it does this by mostly how we feel and how we are experiencing what we experience. So think about the way you feel and the environment that you'll be in when you have what you want, the people that will be around you. We want it to be a rich and vivid experience of what it is that you will feel when you have that, what it is that you want to achieve. And after you've thought about that, I want you to think about the actions that you need to take, the skills that you need to learn, or the resources that you need access to. Are there things that you need to start doing that you haven't done before? Are there things that you need to stop doing that you've been doing for a long time? Martha Graham was a dance instructor, and she said, I believe we learn by practice, whether it means to learn to dance by practicing dance or to learn by practicing, the principles are the same. So what is it that you need to practice in order to achieve what you want? And the last thing I want you to think about is the trust that you have in yourself, this goal that you have, this vision that you have, and the trust in the process that you're creating right now in your mind. Trust in yourself enough to see it come to reality. And I want you to think on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to this process that you've just come up with? And if you're, I'll say lower than a 9, I mean, it would be good to be 10, but sometimes life happens. If you're lower than a 9, go back and look at what it is you need to bring in. Do you need to feel it more? Do you need to be more motivated? Do you have to have greater interest? Do you need resources that maybe you're not thinking about right now? Or do you need to practice something or do some kind of action that you're not really seeing as part of your vision yet? And you can write down also for yourself, what is the first step that you're going to take to put this into motion? So the what we learn by what is what we want, how we want to feel when we have what we want, the actions, resources, skills that we need to have in order to do what it is that we want, and then the trust in yourself in this process that you just created to make it become a reality. And sometimes, as you know, in Toastmasters, we don't always get the results that we want. Sometimes we need to go back and at it again. And that's an important thing to do. If you're not getting what it is that you want, remember, our brain is a prediction machine and it's going on the basis of what we know. So sometimes we have to change our predictions. We have to go back and tweak our plan and keep moving forward. Don't stop, but tweak it and keep moving forward. Our brain is very accurate and efficient in getting us what we want. So we need to make sure that we're clear with ourselves what it is that we want. And this is a quote that I really like. It's from a lady named Grace Llewellyn, who wrote a book called The Teenage Liberation Guide. She says, in the end, the secret to learning is so simple. Think only about whatever you love, follow it, do it, dream about it, and it will hit you. Learning was there all the time, happening by itself. So when we start that, when we open up that path to learning, it can just keep going exponentially. We can learn more and more and more. It gets easier because we know the process and our brain now recognizes the process. So in conclusion, I want to share another little quote from Martha Graham. She says, there's a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you in action, because there's only one you in all of time, and this expression is unique. If you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. So we have inside of us a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the others. Thank you. So I wish you all lots of learning, lots and lots of learning, big learning. Learn about yourself, learn about the world around you, and continue to learn.
Thank you, Lorelei.
Thank you,
You know, I
Lorelei.
have had an interesting experience the last couple of weeks. I'm taking on a certification that totally baffles me. And I watch the videos and my eyes glaze over and I don't understand a word they're saying. And I realized I have to resort. I know how I learn. I learn by writing. So now instead of the 3.5 hours, I'm going to spend 20 or 30 hours writing out word for word the transcript of the videos, because last night when I was doing it, it's like, oh, that's what they were saying, because it was slow enough and I could pay attention to learn. So it is really important to learn about yourself and how you learn, and know if you don't take things audibly and you need to be tactile, then
Yes.
then you know you can tackle it and change your plan.
Right. And that's related to the representations how you take information. Some people are visual, some people are audible, some people are practical. So yeah, learning how you learn is so important, and being able to tap into that.
Lorelei, I just want to let you know that I really appreciated your presentation. Right off the bat, that I can put my leg up in my neck, so that was helpful. I also learned that that exercise that you had us write down, I thought was really powerful, among other things. So thank you much.
Thank you. Yes.